Hi, welcome to our new show. It's New Mexico Business Talk. It's where we talk with thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and people that have something to say. Today I am with James Blackburn, and we're going to do a deep dive about all the great things that he does here in New Mexico. Hi.
Well, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, man. First, let me just say to the audience who maybe doesn't know me as well as Eric does here, Eric and I have been friends for a number of years. He's a wonderful professional guy and more like a brother than just a friend. And he said, let's introduce yourself to the audience because he knows me, but you don't. So I'm James Blackburn. I'm a filmmaker and an actor. I live here in New Mexico, and I have been fortunate enough since 2005 to work on close to 200 television and movie projects in every position that you can imagine, pretty much. From production assistant to background actor to stand-in to speaking role actor, even working my way up into the camera department and into some directing here and there. So, yeah, I heard a quote once that said, if you learn everybody's job, it's a lot harder for someone to BS you. Yeah. So that's one of the things I did when I first got into the business was just get out there and do it and take any job I could find on almost any movie. I only have one rule. I won't do a movie or a television show my mom can't watch.
Okay.
It has to be tasteful enough. It could be a horror movie, but there's some movies that my mom wouldn't watch, so I never do those. And I know that sounds a little corny, but you know, my mom's my biggest fan, and I love her, and I got lucky to have a good mom who encourages me to do what I do and to be in this business and to take risks and chances and to learn new stuff. So, so that pretty much sums me up there in a very quick way. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm just very excited that you are working with me on this very first production for New Mexico Business Talk. And I thought it would be great to have you here today because you and I, we go way back. I was just thinking about the first production you and I worked on. It was for the National Forest.
Oh, yeah.
And we did that hike through different areas here in the Albuquerque area.
That was fun.
We did the volcanoes, we did Sandia, and there were some kids, children from, not children, but teenagers, high school
from around
age.
The country, yeah.
From all over the country, and they met here, and we were lucky enough, that's where I met you.
Yeah, and we did an evening with those youngins as well at the Petroglyph National Monument, and that was a lot of fun.
It was a 3-day production, I think.
Yeah, I believe you're right. And I had a lot of fun because, one, to work with the youth and help mentor them and be a part of something that other folks are trying to lift them up was really cool and special to be part of that. But on the other hand, also, we got to travel to parts of New Mexico and see different environments, which for me, that's half the reason I live in New Mexico is how beautiful this place is. You know, I think we're the 5th largest state out of the 50, so you can imagine that's a lot of square miles. That's a lot of nature. And we have 5 out of 7 climatic zones that exist in this state. It's one of the reasons why Hollywood loves us so much is the fact that we can be New Mexico can substitute in a movie or television for almost any other place in the world, with the exception of like Arctic or tropical. But New Mexico is great, and I'm glad I get to live and work here because every day I wake up and I have a smile on my face because I get excited. It's like things are just beautiful here. And I know outside of New Mexico, occasionally people say negative things or think negative things, or sometimes they don't even know that we're part of the United States still. But for those of us who live here, who are fortunate enough to be part of this environment and part of this work area of the things that we do, it's awesome. It's a very beautiful, wide open place, and I love the people, I love the food, and I love the history.
Yeah, well, definitely if anybody knows New Mexico, it's you, James. I mean, one of the things that you're really known for is your camping. You're an avid camper, and let's talk about that.
Well, and it relates in a lot of ways to the movies and television, too, because I go out to the outdoors. I'll stay sometimes a week at a time, and I will document it all on camera. Well, not all of it. I'll document about an hour per day and of the big moments. And, you know, you can go canoe camping in New Mexico. You can go backpacking. You can car camp if you want and still find places where maybe you won't see anybody else for several days, possibly even a week. And I'm glad I get to capture it on camera. So folks, if you're watching and you want to see some more of this crazy camera stuff that I do, go to my YouTube channel. It's a James Blackburn Experience. I have almost 1,000 video adventures there now. And I say that about 100 of them are pretty good.
I know I've watched quite a bit of them, and I mean, those videos that you put together, I mean, that's how I've learned a lot about New Mexico and all the different places that you've been camping. I mean, I've seen stuff that because you don't just go camping on the side of the road. You go in for a hike, and you take your gear and your food in with you, and you're basically like way out in the wilderness. It's definitely the James Blackburn experience.
And even though we're talking about the nature part of my channel, the truth of the matter is the word experience covers anything that I might experience in life. Even though a lot of the videos are outdoor, hiking, camping related, there's also behind the scenes of me working on different films, and there's a whole bunch of videos of me participating with the New Mexico Gunfighters Association, which is another great group here in town that does shows in Old Town Albuquerque from March to October, second and fourth Sundays, and the group has been around since 1979. It's the second oldest group of its type in America, and I'm really proud to be part of that tradition and to help keep it alive as well.
And you've been doing that for how long now?
I've been with the group for approximately 15 years. We estimate that I've done somewhere in the area of 4,000 shows.
Wow. I've seen a few of those shows, but not all 4,000.
And they're all comedies. They're silly, but you know, we like to put on a family-friendly, Old West, shoot-'em-up sort of show where you can have people from infancy all the way to the more mature folks in our society, and they all still get the jokes. I mean, sometimes if the kid is a little bit younger, we might scare them a bit just because we're loud and we shoot blanks. But for the most part, we always like to keep them family-friendly and funny, you know. And if you like bad jokes, I say you should come down and see us because we have a lot of bad jokes.
That's so great, James. I want to back up a little bit and start do some more deeper dive into your camping stories. What is your favorite camp area? Where do you like to go? I'm sure you have all, like me, a lot of different favorites of the same theme, but do you have favorites?
You know, I would say the Sandia Mountains are my overall favorite. Even though they're right next to the city, you'd be amazed when you get into those mountains how far away you feel from the city still, and how you think there's going to be thousands of people hiking there, and there's not. And the ones that are hiking there are all just wonderful, nice folks that are there for a lot of the same reasons that I am, to get away from town, get a little fresh air, a little sunshine on them, and just enjoy being surrounded by nature. So the Sandias are probably my number one favorite place to hike for a couple reasons. One, it's close by. But two, it's the first mountain range I ever lived near. Before I lived in New Mexico, I moved here in 1998, but before that, I was in the Chicago area.
Oh, yeah.
And the only mountains there are skyscrapers. And,
Yeah.
and it's not the same. So the Sandias are, I call them my home mountain range because they're the ones I live the closest to, and I've hiked every trail on the map in the Sandias. Maybe not entire lengths of them, but I've hiked sections of each piece that is on the map. So it's probably the mountains that I know the best. But as far as overall wilderness experience, there's so much in New Mexico. One that pops into mind, though, is San Pedro Parks Wilderness. Have you heard of that?
No, I haven't.
It's up by Cuba, New Mexico.
Okay.
And it is, I think, about 41,000 acres of designated wilderness, so there's no mechanical vehicles of any kind, not even a mountain bike. It's all horse and foot travel only.
Okay.
And 41,000 acres, it really doesn't sound big, but in comparison to the size of the human body, that's a pretty massive place. And it's an interesting place because the whole wilderness is above 9,000 and 10,000 feet of elevation.
Oh, okay.
So it's all pine trees and aspens. And then there's water throughout the whole park. There's a little river that runs through there, and year-round you're guaranteed to have water to filter when you're backpacking.
Okay.
So yeah, San Pedro Parks Wilderness I would put up high on the list as well because it's just a beautiful spot, and the hiking is fairly easy because you start at a high elevation and you stay at a high elevation. So you're not going up Like if you hike, the La Luz Trail in the Sandias, you cover 5,000 feet of vertical ascent there. It's the La Luz Trail in Sandias is equivalent to hiking from the bottom of the Grand Canyon to the top. And that's a lot of going up.
Yeah.
And that can wear you out. So San Pedro Parks is great because you're mostly on level ground.
Okay, so it's not like you're going from one extreme to the other. You're able to maintain, and
Yep.
yeah.
It's pretty cool. And then as far as other places in New Mexico, there's so much beauty out there. But even if you go south to the City of Rocks, that's a really cool hiking, camping area. It's a little state park, so there's no backcountry camping there.
Where's that
But
at?
it's south of here. I can't remember exactly how far south. It's been a while since I've been there, but it's when you're heading down past Socorro is the City of Rocks.
Okay.
That's a cool place. Of course,
So are they like big boulders?
yeah, and it's
Okay,
weird.
I've
It's
seen
in
that.
the desert. There's a big city of rocks that shouldn't be there, but is. And it's surrounded by just flat desert with no rocks.
Okay.
So and it's a pretty cool place. And, as a person who hikes avidly and who gets out into the wilderness here, I can't take all the credit myself for knowing about these places. There's other folks that I know that are from the community here in New Mexico. Most of them that I know that are my local friends here were born and raised in this state and have been here for generations. And they know about these places that I don't know. And I'm thankful that they're willing to share them with me because, once you start making videos on YouTube about a place, it can actually be positive and negative. Positive that you're introducing it to people who maybe never heard of it, but negative on the fact that you may be inviting thousands of visitors to come and potentially disturb the area that it hasn't been disturbed yet. But for the most part, I love telling people about the outdoors because it's beautiful. New Mexico is amazing, and we're so lucky that we have so much here. We're 121,000 square miles in this state, I believe.
Wow.
And 25% of that is heavily forested. So that's 30,000 square miles of woods in New Mexico. To an outsider, when you tell them you live in New Mexico, they say, oh, isn't that all desert? No, it's not. It's a lot of desert, but the desert shouldn't be discounted either. The desert is beautiful. Of course, you want to hike in the desert the right times of the year. If you're out there in July or August, you're asking for trouble because it's going to be intense and over 100. But the desert has lots of life, lots of plants, not just cactus, but there's flowers there, and there's rabbits, and there's birds, and I love the desert as much as I love the woods, and I learned that by being here in New Mexico.
I think that when people hear desert, they think of the Sahara. And
They think of all sand, yeah.
And we have the high altitude desert here, and there's just so much more. Like you said, there's wildlife, birds, herbs. I remember going hiking with my grandmother, and hers, oh, this is that herb, this is this herb. So, yeah.
It's cool to learn that kind of stuff, and New Mexico has no shortage of different herbs for plants, but there's a lot of medicinal plants in this state as well. And I don't recommend that you go out and just start randomly sampling plants. You need to research that because you could eat something that's going to be bad for you. Like you have to be careful about certain types of mushrooms. But if you do your research and you get educated on it, you can learn that there's a lot of stuff that's the land provides that maybe you can enhance your own experience with, without destroying the land, that is, too.
Well, on that note, James, we're going to take a break, and we'll come back and do some more deep dive conversations.